This is Just a Few Questions. Just a Few Questions. I'm your host, Marc Sims from Chicago, the South Side. I had Henry Davis Jr. on the line. Henry Davis Jr. is the 2nd District council member of South Bend, Indiana. We talked about Mayor Pete on that first broadcast. So, Henry Davis Jr., let's talk about South Bend, the town that Mayor Pete is going to leave behind. And what's going to become of South Bend after Mayor Pete leaves the town and state?
He's already left. He's been gone. I mean, his term, finished.
I know, yeah, right. I'm talking about physically leaving.
Yeah. Past December, man, but he had already taken flight, man, years ago.
Wow.
So, yeah, he was running for the office. He was running for the Insecurity. He went to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
First time, and then he, took off running for president. So, he's been gone for a minute.
Now, South Bend is about, 25% people of color?
Nah,
what is
people of color together is almost 50%.
I don't know why I read, because I read 50% in one report for South.
It's like 50%. If you put all people of color together.
Maybe was it 25% African American? Maybe that's what I read.
It's so yeah. They play with that number. It's in between 30 and 25%. You'll never get the truth with that number. That has always been and continues to be a problem with that number being an exact number. It's always 25. I've seen 27. I've seen 29. I've seen 30. I've seen, like I said, everything between 30 and 25%.
Well, there's income inequality in South Bend, Chicago, where I'm at, and a lot of other places. But how does a city councilman like Henry Davis Jr. or the mayor of South Bend or Chicago or LA or whatever, how do politicians try to ease or fix some kind of way this income inequality? Make it palatable at the least.
Well, you be intentional about it. And we were in between shows talking about what makes a person an attractive candidate that doesn't scare the rest of the electorate off or the people of America off, and trying to, progress their career, but make sure everybody else is happy with them. And that means that you can't be too extreme on one end or be extreme on the other end, or do something that causes fear. Well, at some point, you're going to have to make a decision. And I think that has been the problem. And what we're seeing right now with Bernie, he's made a decision. Now, you can say because he's a white Jewish man that he's allowed that. That's fine. What we have to do is be very intentional about how we go about fixing some of these issues. The mayor down in Atlanta, Georgia, I think it was Maynard.
Maynard Jackson, way back in the day?
Yeah,
Maynard Jackson, way back in the day. Okay, go ahead.
Maynard Jackson, yeah, thank you. He did a very good job of that. He just said, look, I'm going to make sure that these contracts are going to go to blacks so that they have an opportunity to work. He took the sacrifice. He sacrificed his career. And as a result, you see Atlanta being that black metropolis in America.
It's the black Mecca. Chicago used to be, but things changed. Now it's Atlanta.
Well, somebody's going to have to, make that sacrifice.
Right.
And he did. That sacrifice doesn't mean it has to be death to your career or death to you. You just have to be intentional and want to do that. And you don't find very many leaders that are interested in doing that. They don't want to take the gamble. They don't want to be perceived as some sort of hardcore extremist. They want to, make people feel comfortable.
But why don't
and that's a very hard job to do, man.
It's a perplex. I'm sorry cutting in, but it's hard because the masses need to back those candidates who are going to go out on a limb or demand change, and then the candidates show up. But it's tough. Do the masses inspire the candidates, or the candidates inspire the masses?
I think it goes both ways. My experience has been both. I think the masses inspires the candidate because the atmosphere calls for that particular candidate. And that candidate in return inspires that group or that demographic or that wave of new voters to continue on to get elected into this office and potentially another office and then another office. So work together is in tandem. I don't think they are mutually exclusive. I think they work together for a period of time, and they evolve.
So you're in South Bend. Now, same problem, Chicago, all over the country. Let me ask you something, Henry Davis Jr. Are the public schools in South Bend, and I mean for working class students, not the ones that are going to go off to Notre Dame, okay? Regular working class students. Are the public schools preparing those students for a world of robots and automation and algorithms and AI?
We're not preparing our children for anything that says success right now. South Bend right now is in a really, really bad place when it comes to our public school corporation. Just last week, the city council and the school board got together for a meeting. They called it historical, and it probably was, because what's happening here is scary. You have the introduction of more charter schools into our locality. You're talking about a number of students every year leaving the public school corporation, going somewhere else, using their vouchers to land at private schools. They're scattering. You're talking about the neighborhoods that a lot of these kids are leaving out of, or that they live in. They're going to school, are not preparing them. They're not real resource. Food deserts, you name it, they're there, or it's not there. I should say it like that. And as a result, these kids and these families are not growing. South Bend has to make its mind up and says, hey, we're going to be a very, very strong family-oriented place. We're going to build strong families. And that's the only way that any community grows, that you have healthy families. And that means that those families are living in neighborhoods that are well-resourced. I'm not saying that everyone can live in a $250,000 house. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ability to live in an environment that's conducive to growth. There's a school there. There are retail outlets there. Tax base is expanding there constantly. There's low crime, and there are jobs for those parents. And if you don't have those things and even any resemblance of those things, it doesn't matter if the child goes to school and learns a lesson. You're not going to get the majority of those students learning and find themselves in a position where they're going to acquire a job and be tax-paying citizens later on in their lives. We have to prepare the ground. We have to till the ground. We have to make sure the ground is fertile for that type of growth. And so we have to be very intentional here as public officials on how that works. So that means, how do we invest in particular areas to make sure that there is an outcome that we're looking for within 2 to 5 years, 5 to 8 years, 8 to 10 to 15 years. We're not doing that. We're going about the business that we've been going about and thinking things are going to get better. And I think it was what Albert Einstein that said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, no, you're going to get the same results or worse results, and that's the problem. We have to design this place or redesign this community that actually helps grow strong families, and we're not doing that.
Well, you're a politician, and you understand that the Republican Party, this is my opinion now, but I think you would agree, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are not in the business of allocating resources to poor people, working class people. I think that's one reason. I'm not saying Bernie Sanders is going to win this nomination because they try the establishment.
We hope that he does.
Yeah, but the establishment is with Mayor Pete dropping out and a lot of things going on. It's moving fast. They trying their best to get Bernie Sanders out. I'm not a Bernie bro. I'm not a Bernie bro per se, because I'm not a Bernie bro, although I voted for him last time, because I think we need some democratic socialism in this country. And I say democratic socialism.
No, we need people who speaks to the moral center of the Democratic Party. Let's do the socialism stuff out of there.
Yeah, I know these are labels that Bernie has to sort of jettison and talk like you. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's move past that. let's talk about the moral center of the Democratic Party. Let's talk about how people, the majority of people, regardless if they're black or they're white, they need a 9-to-5 that pays them enough to pay their mortgage. They need, affordable housing or good housing in their neighborhood. They need better health care or the best health care. I mean, how do you live in a country that is as rich as America is with all of these resources, and you have this heavy degree of people, large percentage of Americans who do not have jobs or they're underemployed, they live in crime-ridden areas, the education for their students or for their kids or their children is like subpar. How does that work? We are a better nation than that.
Let me stop. We got 5 minutes left. I got to stop. We're not a better nation than that. We had slaves, indentured service, child labor, no unions. We have a history of not spreading these resources, as you well know.
Not true. Not true.
Okay, when did we do it?
Just yesterday, we were reading through some stuff that FDR did.
Yeah, well, that was because we had a Great Depression, something we might be going to.
What do you think that we're doing right now?
That's what I'm saying. We had one 10 years ago. We may have another one. Hopefully not as bad as that last one. But I'm saying, it takes a crack. Well, we didn't really do that much last time. I'm not going to say anything bad about Barack Obama, and I was going to say this phrase: philanthropy is not enough, because people think the rich people giving money is going to be enough. No, you need government.
No, we need our own resources.
But it's going to be government money. But I'm saying, philanthropy is not enough. You need government money, don't you?
Well, government money is the people's money.
No, people say no. They say no. Government money is my money. So I don't know your area that well. So say I'm in Mishawaka. I don't want my money in Mishawaka. My tax dollars go to your people, those people in South Bend. That's how it works, right?
Depending on where you spend your money at, yeah, that's how.
But you know what I'm saying. So I'm saying, people, I don't want my tax dollars to go to those people. There are people who will probably benefit from Medicare for all, but they can't they don't want to go to Medicare for all because they think that Medicare for all means that those people in South Bend are going to get Medicare for all. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but look, what's good for the geese is good for the gander. We're all on the same wavelength, the same shit, and I holistically believe that while we're working at these things and we're trying to accomplish these things, that what impacts me impacts you. And it may be indirectly, but it does. You can't get away from what happens to me right now in America. You can't, because like I just said, it's like a boomerang. So if you have a heavy degree of people who are that are in poverty, and you have tons of money, they're going to be at you for these philanthropic efforts. They want you to help out the poor kids, and they're going to ask you for a lot of money, and they're going to keep asking for a lot of money because you have a lot of money, and so it's going to come to you some way. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
You're going to be compelled to do something at some time to support the folks that have less than you do. So it only will make good sense to start that right now rather than waiting for it to happen later on. Because what really occurs with this entire conversation, and this is what the country is going through, you have a tremendous amount of crime in our cities. And that could be related back to the income disparities that we've always talked about, the income inequalities. That always can be related back to that. And so at some point, and I think we're at that point, I really believe that we're at that point, we're going to have to make a decision on what we're interested in doing and should do. Because if we don't do it, we know what occurs. More and more crime. More people being hurt, innocent people being hurt, more people laying out on the streets because they're homeless, more of these things that doesn't speak to a higher quality of life.
Henry Davis Jr., my time is up, or our time is up. I can't thank you enough. We got to do it again.
Right on. I appreciate you. Thank you.